Had a little listen to his podcast, huh?
Dude, it's educational. And besides, I've been wanting to listen to this one.
Welcome to Idling in the Impala, a podcast by and for lovers of supernatural and the fanfiction it inspires. I'm Karlee.
I'm Sandra, and we've locked up all our ashtrays in preparation for today's interview with Supernatural FanFic author Ash. You may know her as Ashtraythief on AO3. She's also a mod for the anonymous comment meme SPN Masquerade. Ash has been posting fics on AO3 since 2013 and has, last I checked, 188 works listed. She primarily writes RPF featuring J2 with ABO, JDM, alternate universes, The Final Frontier, dinosaurs, and dragons tossed in for good measure. So big thanks for joining us and welcome back again to the podcast, Ash.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was
welcome.
I will just say, like, looking through your stuff, I was like, wow, there is a lot going on here. I was just amazed as I was looking through summaries and dinosaurs, dragons, cats. There was so much great stuff in there. I was like, where does all this creativity and stuff come from? So I can't wait to like dig in a little bit and find out more about your writing process and everything along those lines. But I think I wanted to start with what exactly got you into Supernatural and like when did that all start?
Yeah. So, well, my supernatural journey was kind of accidental because I didn't have anyone, like none of my friends were watching it. And so, you know, back in the day in like 2012, maybe. No, it must have been earlier, like 2010, maybe, you know, before Netflix came to Europe and before we had access to a lot of things and you had to go to like various internet sites to find stuff. And it was this one site and they had like a category for shows with like ridiculously good looking people. And so, of course, Supernatural was listed among them. And I was, you know, I have a shallow streak. So I was like, oh, let's watch that. And it was just way too scary for me because I don't do horror movies. And the pilot has like scary, dark elements, you know. And so I was like, you know, they're very pretty, but I don't think they're pretty enough to get me through this. And so I quit after the pilot. And then a couple of months later, I was like at my roommate's place and they were watching, like TNT was on in the background with like a Leverage rerun. I was like, yes, this is great. And then it switched to Supernatural. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember those two guys. This is going to be scary. But it was season 2's episode, Playthings. And I was like, oh no, this is not too bad, right? Because Playthings is that dark and you kind of see it coming. And I mean, it's creepy, but it doesn't do like the scary jump scare kind of things. And so I was like kind of getting into it and I was like, oh, this is really nice. And, you know, Sam and Dean are fighting. And I didn't really understand why because I'd only seen the pilot, but it was like enough to be like, oh, these babies. And then Sam fell into the pool and I was like, wow, okay, this is very hot. I should probably stick with this. Okay. And then I went back to the beginning and then I realized that I was going to love this show for a lot more than just 12 reasons. That's really how that went. And I actually loved it so much, I bought the DVDs so I could like watch it in HD, you know.
Okay. I feel like the first season, I think like in terms of horror and stuff, I really feel like the first season leaned into that a lot more than seasons, even like season 2, I just felt like, or even like the first half of season 1, I feel like they were really trying to go through all of like the urban legends and different things like that. And then I think they kind of found their stride with incorporating monsters of the week, but not really being horror. Like for me to be able to watch something like that, because I think I'm like you too, Ash, where I wasn't really turned on by the fact that it was being touted as like horror, like, you know, like that kind of a thing. And it didn't really, after I was like, oh, it's really not that bad. It's like horror light. It's like something I could deal with, you know, but I'm still always amazed at how much blood and stuff they got away with. Things that they got away with doing on that show with like the vampire beheadings and like just a lot of like stuff that I'm like, oh, okay, this is just, this is on regular TV and we're good with it. We're good with it. So
fun fact so I'm from Germany, which I don't think is the big secret. But when I was ordering the DVDs, season 3 is rated R in Germany. So you can only buy it when you're 18, which means when I ordered it online, I had to fill out like a special thing declaring that I was 18. And then the delivery guy actually had to check my ID when he delivered it.
Oh, what, really?
Yes, because season 3 is apparently so gory that like the German whatever television ratings board was like, no, this is rated R.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm trying to think what even is in season 3 that would
maybe it's the very end when there's Dean getting dragged, there's Dean and the hellhounds
ripped to pieces, yeah. Yeah, maybe.
And maybe it is because there's a lot more. I think demons are a bigger part of it too. So there's a lot more of that stuff going on. Maybe a lot more fights and things along that line that maybe they didn't have as much of in season 2. Wow, that's
wild.
Yeah,
and I mean the rest is rated. In Germany, the ratings are like 16 and 18. So all the other seasons are rated like 16 plus.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Gotta look what they are in the UK now.
Yeah, no, everything.
I think they're all 15s.
Yeah.
I don't even, do we even get a rating? Ours is just like episode bonus material not rated. Okay, great. Not surprising.
Doesn't it say like when you watch it on TV and they like put in the little box?
I think they'll do like, I think they've done like so I think in the US it's like maybe TV, they might do TV for like 14. Yeah. I'm curious as to if it was always that way, like even when it first came on, like back in 2005, because I don't remember when the rating system started to kind of change over, over here, where I think it was a little more detailed about what you could expect to see in each episode. Like there'd usually be a little like runner at the top of like, for what was going on, like TV or whatever. And it just seems like it should have been rated worse than whatever it was here. I'll have to do some research and figure that one out because like I said, I didn't watch it until it was on Netflix, and that was later. And it was what I'm used to with Netflix, where they just kind of tell you like what to expect and stuff like that at the top. So, oh, wow. So interesting. Karlee and I get into culture talk a lot too, and just how different it is to hear about that over there. Did you have to make sure you get a special like region coded DVD?
So when I lived in Germany, I was just getting the German DVDs, and but they're like for certain DVD players, they're like hacks, and then you like put in like a cheat sequence, and then they can play all DVDs.
Okay.
So I still have my DVD player from like 20 years ago because it has this cheat sequence installed, so it can play DVDs from any region.
Okay.
And I am not giving that up until it falls apart.
No. Yeah, see, I have all the Supernatural DVDs, and then I upgraded my laptop, and they don't come with disc drives anymore.
Yeah,
like CDs and DVDs are just they're relics now almost. So I had to go buy like an external like disc drive that I could plug in.
Yeah,
but then that's too much effort, so I just watch it on Amazon. Like I have the DVDs. I don't even think I've unwrapped the last couple, but they're on the shelf. They look nice. It's fine.
I moved to the UK a couple of years ago, and I actually bought the Blu-rays when they came out in the box set after it was over, and I bought a Blu-ray player for it because there was a moment when Supernatural went off Netflix here.
Yes.
Before it was on Amazon, and I'm like, I'm not paying for Amazon just for Supernatural, so I got the DVDs.
Yeah, and then it went off Amazon, or it was going off Amazon, so
Streaming services are not safety. Like anything can disappear at any moment. I'm just like, the important stuff comes on DVDs.
Yeah.
Well,
even the digital stuff too. Like it's just like you can purchase something and it doesn't. I just don't have faith that you can say it's yours forever. Like at any point in time, a service can decide, nope. Well, we're going out of business. Well, what do you do with your stuff? Like it's like okay, well.
I mean, if you happen to hoist the Jolly Roger on the internet and be slightly nefarious, you can download digital things.
Yeah, but I'm just
stuff.
saying like the way the digital stuff is right now and how they, like I remember, and sorry, I know we're going off on a tangent, but I remember having like a bunch of stuff on one service, and they did actually give me enough time and say they were merging over from this other service. Like make sure, you switch over and you see all of your stuff has been, has gone over and stuff like that. You're right. Anything important, I just I want to have a hard copy of it. And because I don't know how long Netflix will even still carry Supernatural, until that's going to be a thing, if that goes to another streaming service at some point.
Yeah. And for me, it's like sometimes I go home to visit my mom, and like Amazon in Germany is not the same as in the UK. So if you buy something on UK Amazon, you can't watch it on your German Amazon.
Oh my God, really?
Yes. So it doesn't even transfer countries.
Wow.
That's disgusting. You need a VPN.
Yeah, right?
You need to be like, no, I'm at my house. Please. I would like this.
Yeah. It's just a mess. And with like the streaming wars in the US and like new streaming services cropping up, and you don't know where stuff ends up, and you don't want to pay for like 7 different streaming services. So like,
oh God, no. Yeah.
That was the whole point of getting rid of cable, and they were just making it like cable again. Like you have to have everything anyway, even if you don't want a cable package here. It's like, no, I'm just going to have to deal with like just a couple of streaming services. It's annoying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, internet piracy kind of went down when it was just like, like Netflix and Amazon and stuff, because people were like, I can get all my shit in one place and I'll pay for that.
Yeah.
And then it was like, especially in the US, everything started splitting up, and you had like Paramount and Hulu and this and that, and everyone was like, okay, I'll just download it from the internet. I'm paying for all these services, so yeah. But there's only now money. There's no thought of future. There's only money now.
I think we asked this question before, Ash, but do you have a favorite brother? Because I want to hear Karlee.
Oh my God.
I can't remember.
How do you do this to me?
So I love them both, right?
That's not an answer.
If someone put a gun to my chest and made me choose, I would probably pick, because we do share, like, obviously we're really nothing alike, but I do share his love, like the old music, and I like that he has this silly appreciation for his car, which is not really silly at all. Okay. But he's just, I also think that especially in the beginning, Dean is just more not relatable, but you understand him better because he really wears his heart on his sleeve and you know where he's coming from. And Sam is he's keeping his secrets in the beginning, both from Dean and from the audience. And so Dean is kind of, your focal point in the show where you know what he wants and you know where he wants to go. And you're trying to solve this riddle that is like reconnecting with Sam together to him. So I think that for me is what they drew me in the beginning. But Sam is amazing, and he's strong, and he was so sassy in the beginning. I think they lost that a little bit in the writing in the later seasons. But in the first few seasons, he was really great. But I love them both, and I think their relationship is the real star of the show. And it was what made me coming back, even when the episode quality was not great.
Yeah, that's true. I definitely could see that. Karlee and I were talking about, we were ranking our Sams and Deans, and I think it was definitely Sam had a little bit more lightness to him in the beginning, just like Dean did too, but it just felt like he was really allowed to relax sometimes more than I feel like in later seasons he really got the opportunity to.
Yeah.
Karlee, you
okay? I will say I do like that both of them changed and got more serious and got harder after everything they went through.
Right.
But I feel like the writers managed it better to keep giving Dean his silly, hedonistic moments, whereas like Sam's sassy moments became much rarer. And I just thought that was a little sad.
Yeah. Okay.
But Sam is awesome, Karlee.
No, it's too late now. It's too late. You've done it now. It's fine.
No.
You threw your hat in the ring. You can't, don't attempt to make it better. No, I'm kidding. I get it, y'all. I get it. I can't, man. He's my boy. And I'll hold him up all on my own.
Yeah, that's lovely. We love that.
He's my
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Did your love of fan fiction start with Supernatural, or was it something that you had, I had a love for with another fandom prior to that? When did all of like this writing and all of this stuff like start to happen for you?
My fan fiction introduction started relatively late because, again, none of my friends were doing it. It wasn't apparently a thing in the circles I was moving in. And so I really only picked it up, I think, shortly before I started watching Supernatural. and I somehow discovered, I think Harry Potter was maybe potentially the first fandom I started poking around, like on fanfiction.net, which is, a thing on its own. And I didn't really dive into supernatural fanfiction until the episode The Monster at the end of the book, where they were like, there's Sam girls and Dean girls and what's a slash fan? And I was like, what's and then they explained it to me and I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. And then I went looking for it and I found it. And I was reading and lurking for a really long time. When I started writing, I think I wrote like only for myself for a year before I really started posting something somewhere. Because I think when I was like 12 or 13, I wanted to be a writer and I started writing like a fantasy novel, which of course never really went anywhere. And I didn't really share it with anyone. And it just, I forgot about it. I didn't forget about it, but it very much was on the back burner. And I didn't have any kind of reference for becoming a writer or wanting to be a writer, and no one to really talk about these kind of creative things. So it just was very much in the background. And then when I discovered fanfiction, started reading it, it was like, oh, there are all these stories that I find interesting and that I would like to write. And I mean, the internet and fandom space in particular offers you a lot of choices to very anonymously post work and like get your feedback and try things out. And so one of the platforms I discovered in the beginning was, of course, LiveJournal, and then the Supernatural King meme, which is some people call it lovingly the dark underbelly of Supernatural. It's just really, I mean, it's the place where ABO was invented, and you can find anything from very fluffy to extremely dark and twisted on there. But it's all anonymous, so it was like a great place to like start writing things that sounded interesting to me and post them. And then, there are always a couple of people around who like comment and be like, oh, I really enjoyed this. And then you're like, oh. And it makes your heart all soft and fuzzy. And that's how I got eventually.
Yeah. When you say that there wasn't anyone around, like writing when you were younger, I mean, and I'm kind of doing a little projecting, but I know, coming from parents who immigrated from Italy to America, there was just this sense of, you succeed or you have success if you do like a certain job, or if you're like, or like work is like labor intensive or different things like that. So the creative aspect, I don't think was ever really nurtured a lot, for me. So I may have like written, some little things here and there and shared them with friends, but there was never the thought that, at least when I was younger, that writing would be anything I'd really want to pursue in great detail. Was that sort of something similar for you growing up?
I think part of it was that, so I can't draw and I can't sing. So there was always this joke like, oh, she doesn't have an artistic side, right? And that obviously extends to the creative process of writing as well. And it was just like this joke, oh, left-handed people are supposed to be so creative, and you're like really going against the grain. And it was just like, neither my parents were really into this kind of thing, and I didn't know, like none of my friends were into writing in some capacity, I think. So there just really wasn't, it was just something that I did for myself for a while. But I don't, that's not how my writing process really flourishes, because as I've discovered over the last, 11 years, I really write better when I have sounding boards and when I can like bounce ideas. And I just didn't have any of that. And then at some point you just hit puberty and then you have other things to think about. And and you need to figure out what you want to do with your life. And so it just, kind of forgot about it.
Oh, you're left-handed?
I am. Yeah.
I'm left-handed. Yes. Left-handed unite.
Left-handed people unite. I'm not left-handed. I'm right-handed.
That's
no, I think that's also, just in terms of creative, I think sometimes writing is just like not given the same. And I mean, I think that happens in fandom cultures as well. Like it's just sometimes not seen as being as valuable. Not, of course, within our, like, we know how valuable it is, but like outside looking in, like the writing in general, I think sometimes is not, unless you're like top tier author, it's like, oh, you're just, it's just a pipe dream, or like not even like thinking, it's anything worth doing.
Especially if you write like romance focused thing, then it's like, silly little writing.
Yeah. It's always that sort of, it's not real writing, which I just think is just bullshit. It just is. Writing's writing. I think Becky said that. Sorry, Karlee.
I'll let you off because I don't remember it. But no, I'm totally with you guys. I don't like the whole, just a silly little hobby. Like, no, I've cried over this stuff. Anything I've cried over is serious. How
did you get out of the little like bubble of keeping it all to yourself? What kind of spurred you to, I guess, take the leap and maybe either reach out to somebody or try something that involved showing your stuff to other people? I'm sure I know that what's on AO3 is not like what you posted first. I'm assuming it's not like in chronological order or anything like that. Was it around the same time, like 2013, from what I saw on AO3, or were you posting like a little bit earlier on LiveJournal?
I was posting a little earlier on LiveJournal because AO3 was really, I think that was the time when you were still waiting for like an invite for someone. Because, because it was so early and they were still, working on so many things. It really was the anonymity of the kink meme where I was posting it first. And then someone posted a prompt that I really liked, but like I wanted to clarify about it. And so that person, Allie, she went by Alazig back in the day and then later switched to Alley Cat. And so she came off and on and was like, so this is me. If you want to chat, just send me a message. And I was like, okay, I want to talk to this person. So I like made a LiveJournal account and I started talking to her. And then obviously, I mean, my grammar and my spelling has become better than it was 10 years ago, but 10 years ago was kind of a mess. And as a non-native speaker, it's a little hard. And so I also went looking for a beta reader, and there used to be like on LiveJournals, there were like communities where you could look for a beta. And so I made like a post and I met a couple of people. And so then, when my stuff was beta read, I was like, oh, this looks so much better now. I should post this to an account. And then, I made a LiveJournal account and started posting the stuff there. And then I started talking to people. And I think Allie was a really good starting point for me because she knew so many people in fandom. And so through her, I connected with a few other people. And I mean, it takes some time to find like your people, the people you like really click with and where you can like speak over the same things you enjoy, doing the same kind of writing you enjoy. And that eventually just led to like the circle becoming bigger, I think. And that's how that happened.
Okay.
And then I think like maybe half a year later or something, or a year later, I got like an AO3 invite and started posting stuff on AO3.
Oh, cool. Just to this is not fanfic related, but I've been learning German casually. So as a native English speaker, I am appalled that you would be like, my grammar wasn't the greatest because we only have one word for the, and you have about 7. So
I know.
I don't know how you could be like, this is difficult because, all right, English is it's like 3 languages in a trench coat and it beats up other languages for, like grammar and stuff. But there's only one word for the, and you don't have to guess. Like, I mean, obviously you probably like you grew up speaking it, but I have to guess and I don't like that. I'm just like, fucking no, why is this feminine in this mask? I didn't think German did that and I was really upset when I found out that it did.
Okay, but here's the thing. German has very fixed rules for everything. So as soon as you learn which word is which gender, everything about the articles makes sense, right? You just have to learn.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And because English is a fucker in a trench coat that beats up everything, there are different rules for different things. And sometimes it's just like super weird. Like it's goose geese, but it's moose moose. And then you have to know that moose is a Native American word, which is why it doesn't get the same plural as goose, which is like a Germanic word. And it's like, okay, sure, now I know this. And the other thing is like, I don't know if you guys ever thought about this, but there's an order to which you do adjectives if you have several adjectives.
Yes.
So it's like the big fat bear, but not the fat big bear. And either you speak the language for a really long time and just learn the flow of it, or you have to like to memorize the order of it. And the rules are so random, and like the rules for prepositions are the worst because there aren't any. And then you like, learn which word goes for which preposition. It's like, is this a two? Is this a four? I don't know. Nothing makes sense.
Aww.
So I think English is like easy to learn at a basic level that allows you to communicate fairly well, but I find it really hard to master.
Yeah.
And I think in German, it's different because once you have all the basic building blocks, you can already, construct sentences at a more advanced and or correct level. And I think that's harder for English, which makes English a really great lingua franca to communicate for everyone in, because you can all learn the basics and you will understand each other. But if you want to write like correct and pretty prose, it's really hard.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you that one, but I would like to just counter with the fact that there is one word for morning and tomorrow, and the only difference is a capital letter, and I just learned that, and I'm still mad about it.
Okay, but if someone says like, I don't know, deer, how do I know whether that's a term of endearment or an animal?
Context.
Yeah. The same.
No, I get it though.
Yeah.
I get it though. I get it. I just like I thought that German wasn't one of the masculine and feminine languages, and I've always liked it because it's quite like I thought when I started, I was like, it's like an angry language. I'm gonna like this, and then as you get into it, you're like, oh no, it's not. It's not really that angry. It's quite nice. But I didn't think that it was like one of those, the chair is female and the door is male. And then it was. And I was like, the fuck is this? But I got past that. I've learned about 5 of the different thes, and I can reasonably use them. And then it was like, I knew how to say good morning, and I knew what morning was. And then it was like, tomorrow, morgen. And I was like, what? It's the same fucking word. You can't just change the capitalization and be like, no, it's a whole different word. Oh, upset me. I'm still upset about that.
Actually, we can. And also, I need to point out that door is actually feminine.
I don't know what door is in German. I just made him up.
It's Tür.
Okay. All right. Dogs are masculine and cats are feminine. That feels sexist. And I know I'm right about that one because that's one of the first things that Duolingo teaches you.
That's
no,
very
it's not.
true.
It's not. The first thing it teaches you is like how to order, like in a cafe. So how to learn to say like coffee and tea and milk and thank you and
things.
Yeah, because that's what you need. Like I would have thought, where is the bathroom? Would have been one of the first things that you would learn. Or I'm lost, please help. But no, order a cup of coffee. Yeah. But no, I'm still mad about your dual word usage. So.
I'm sorry.
It's your fault. I don't blame you for the German language. It's fine.
Yeah, nothing I can say about that.
Karlee does this. Karlee does this to me all the time. It's like something that
you are responsible for the entirety of the USA. It's all you.
Oh, God.
No, I thought it was interesting to hear how like learning English from a non-native speaker, and then I'm like, oh, I speak a tiny little bit of your language. We can converse on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Ash, I could say from reading your stuff, I would never know that English
fully.
was not your native language. I can just say that from reading your things. I would have never gotten that, so I mean, I'm sure it's something you've crafted and worked on. And so that says a ton about your dedication, I think, to the writing process in general.
I mean, it helped that I did part of my education in the US. And it helps that I have really great beta readers who fix everything. Like, I rarely post anything without anyone else looking over it because I still make mistakes. And I don't like that.
No, but it's really great. I did want to ask you, because I was noticing in your list of works that something had been translated into Chinese. One of your stories, is that right? Is that something that, because I saw you were listed, so I didn't know if it was like just a translated work or how that happens on AO3, or if that's somebody that you became friends with and worked on even just the translation of it so that it kind of translated in a way that made sense.
The person just approached me and said they would really like to do a translation of that specific story. And usually I know that opinions on translating fanfic are very split in fandom. And I am generally in the camp, I'm not a fan of having my works translated for several reasons, but I do understand people who say like, yes, translate all of it, and then it gets translated into other languages. And that's great. But in that specific instance, I was approached and they made a very convincing argument. And I was, of course, very flattered. And I was like, yes, you may translate this. And so they just posted it on AO3 and listed me as the co-author.
Okay.
So people go find the original fic and come back to me if they want.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice. No, I saw that. I was like, oh, I need to ask that question because I was like, I saw that you were listed. I was like, what was the process for that?
Yeah, there was no process. Okay. I speak no Chinese at all. Mandarin. I speak no Mandarin at all.
Okay.
So they just did that by themselves.
When I was looking through your work, and Karlee and I were talking about this a little bit, there's definitely a lot of J2, more than there is like Sam and Dean. So a lot of RPF. What makes you choose J2 over Sam and Dean for any particular idea? Like, is it just if you're involved in if you're involved in kink meme, or if you're doing masquerade fills, is it literally just going by what the person suggests? Or when you're writing something and it's just yours, do you tend to use Jensen and Jared more than Sam and Dean? And if so, why?
Yes. So I think almost all of my Sam and Dean stuff came out of prompts.
Okay.
And so the reason why I usually write J2 is because I find it very hard to write Sam and Dean, because I prefer stories that are like in universe, like they don't have to be canon compliant, but like canon adjacent. And so I appreciate stories where Sam and Dean are very much in character, because I do love these characters. And I find it very hard to get it right. So I don't consider myself a very good Sam and Dean writer. And in the beginning, I didn't write it at all because I felt no confidence that I could do it. And I still don't think like I still think my other stories are generally probably better than my Sam and Dean stuff, but I enjoy writing it. And I've, at some point I think you hit a point where you're like, oh yeah, this is not the greatest story in the world, but it's fun and it's fine. And someone out there will enjoy it. And so I will post it, and I enjoyed writing it. And so this is why I write a little more Sam and Dean now. But I think with J2, there's just so much more freedom. Like you said, you saw on my list, right? There's dinosaurs, and there's space, and there's dragons.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really work in the Supernatural universe. And
right.
Of course, you can write an AU. And I know lots of people do that. But for me, the appeal of Sam and Dean is really the very specific Supernatural universe and the way their characters are forged in that universe. And so I have no desire to read a story where Sam and Dean are like, I don't know, dragon riders. But I like reading stories about dragon riders, and I like writing it. And so I think J2 just gives you all the possibilities. And of course, sometimes you are like, oh, this is like an aspect of like Jared or Jensen's con persona that you can use for a fic. So like Jared is a ball of sunshine, and Jensen is like grumpy in the mornings and needs his coffee. And then you have like these fun little tidbits that you get from like interviews and conventions that are sort of like their public persona. And you can use that for a fic. There's just a lot of freedom to do what I want.
Yeah.
And a lot of tropes to explore. And so I really enjoy that. And so I think that's the reason why in the beginning, especially, I only wrote RPF and only later came back to Sam and Dean, because I really like reading it, and I always have, but it's a very intimidating thing to write. So I just don't do a lot.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. I'm always very interested in how very different people approach writing too, and like what drives them, to write a certain thing and what interests them. And I think that's just a great indication or an example of fandom writing, like in general, like why people like to do certain things or read certain stuff. Did you have a lot of, because I was looking at, again, the list, do you take inspiration from certain media or books or film or TV, or is it just like whatever, like, because I mean, I was getting one for the books, which I want to talk about. I was getting sort of like Firefly because I'd watched that show like maybe like, so I kind of got that sort of like space vibe, space cowboy kind of feel sort of thing from that. So I didn't know if a lot of it was like, you get some inspiration from a TV show you're watching or film or books. Like, is it just all of that like mishmash together and you're like, oh, what if this or what if that?
Yeah, absolutely. I love Firefly for all its faults.
Okay.
For all its faults, it's a Western in space, which is my two favorite genres mashed together.
Yeah, I totally saw that when I was reading. I'm like, oh, this is like an episode. It just felt like that. I was like, this is cool.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely. And I had like a phase where I was watching like a lot of Leverage and a lot of White Collar. And a lot of Burn Notice, which is really where the Underneath verse basically came from. That's the mishmash of all of the things that I enjoy in these three things. And sometimes I read like a book and then it's sort of like based on or inspired by parts of the plot that I then adapt. And that's fun. A lot of the time I write for random prompts and then it just happens. And sometimes, Jurassic Park is obviously a huge inspiration of my writing.
Yes.
Because I just love dinosaurs a lot.
Yeah. What's your favorite
and
dinosaur, though? What's your favorite?
It's so hard. So hard. I think my favorite is like a Deinonychus, which is basically what the Velociraptor looks like in Jurassic Park. That is not a Velociraptor because they're much smaller. No. Yeah. Okay. So basically, they based it on either, I think, maybe possibly a Utahraptor or a Deinonychus. That could be. So I am very fond of that. But there's like a ton of them I really like.
I don't think adults ask other adults what their favorite dinosaur is enough.
Right, and they should. What is your favorite dinosaur, Karlee?
It's a diplodocus, however you choose to pronounce it.
They're so cute.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like chunky and beefy. And I will say that the BBC TV show Walking with Dinosaurs inspired that because they have the cutest story. Like they have like a really cute face and like the round mouth and their tail, like the bullwhip tail, that is really good. And then like in the TV show, you follow like this one little female from being laid in the forest, and then she hatches and they live in the forest for a little while. And I know it's fictional, but like they live in the forest for a little while they're little and there are predators in the forest, and then there's a forest fire and they have to escape and go out onto the play. And I love it.
Oh my God. Have you seen the new Apple Plus show with the dinosaurs, Prehistoric Planet, yet?
I have not, no.
Oh my God, it's amazing. It's the best dinosaur show they have ever made. It's basically a David Attenborough style documentary about dinosaurs. And David Attenborough is narrating it, and it's so good. The only sad thing, it's only late Cretaceous. So there's, only late Cretaceous. But it's really great, and the animation is as good as in any Hollywood movie.
Oh my God, I'm going to go find that now.
Yeah.
What's your favorite, Sandra? Do you have a favorite dinosaur?
I did. Brontosaurus when it was still called Brontosaurus, and I think then it was Apatosaurus. I don't know if they've changed it now, but I remember he was the big lumbering dude with the long neck. He was always my favorite growing up. He's one of the reasons why I still want to believe that Loch Ness is a thing. Because I want to believe that there's a dinosaur still, swimming around or whatever in the loch and stuff like that. But Brontosaurus, I think. Yeah.
I like that. That's a good one because that's probably one of the dinosaurs that comes out of Jurassic Park, the first movie, the best.
Yeah. Well, because they didn't really have to do. Yeah, it was really not. I think a lot. I mean, it was a lot, but they were able to do CG, but then also animatronics and stuff to kind of make it all blend together. I think and work. Yeah.
But they made her look like a puppy. I'm in for that. We've all been sneezed on by a dog or a cat, and it's I like that. Oh.
Although the one in Jurassic Park is a Brachiosaurus.
Okay, see that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Was it Brontosaurus, Brachiosaurus, or Brontosaurus Apatosaurus? What's the?
So the Brachiosaurus is the one with like the really domed head, where the neck goes very high, and the Apatosaurus has like a flatter head.
Okay.
And I think they've come around, maybe potentially that there's a a different species now that they're calling brontosaurus.
Okay.
So now they do both exist, but there was in the beginning the whole thing where they had like a body and a head, and they call it one Apatosaurus and the other one Brontosaurus, and then realize it's the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but putting bones together with only bones is difficult. We'll let them off on that one. We'll let them off. We'll let them off.
Oh, goodness.
Adults should ask other adults about dinosaurs more.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask a little bit more about the community and like the group that you sort of, I believe still you guys bounce ideas off of quite a bit still. Are you still doing a lot of, I mean, I know, of course, you're heavily involved in Masquerade and stuff. Are there other, like, are you still doing Big Bangs occasionally? Or are you still doing a lot of other challenges or memes or different things like that?
So for me personally, doing other challenges has really, I'm not doing a lot of them anymore just because I don't have a lot of time.
Right.
And so I did Masquerade and I did Spring Fling earlier in the year. And usually I do Xmas, but it's not happening this year, which is kind of sad.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been doing smaller challenges where you only have to write a couple of thousand words.
Okay.
I haven't done Big Bang in years. And one of the main reasons I think is that I have this long ongoing story, The Underneath Verse, and I really want to finish that. And just that takes a lot of writing energy and writing time that I usually have for other projects. And so I really want to finish it now. So I'm focused very much on that. So I don't have the time or the space to write another Big Bang, which is kind of sad because I really enjoy doing Big Bangs. I like, getting matched up with an artist and create something together. And that's always really fun. But it was just not enough time in the last couple of years to do that. Sadly.
Yeah. And the group that you kind of bounce ideas off of, do you still just get together and chat and kind of like talk about writing and stuff like that?
Yeah, we have like regular Zoom meetings. And I mean, we write on and off. And we all have jobs. And so work sometimes and real life just gets in the way. But we had 2 people from like our friend group that were doing Big Bangs this year, Zuma Shamali and Karlee. And so we did like a mini round table where they gave us their drafts. We read them and gave. In the past, when there were like 4 or 5 of us, we had like big get-togethers and everybody was reading everybody's draft and it was like a whole thing. But again, time, real life. All very sad.
Real life keeps getting in the way. Rude.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a little bit more too about one of your Big Bangs in particular that I really, really liked. I started reading it last night and that was a bad idea. It was like 2 a.m. And I was like, okay, like I'm really not going to be able to give this all the attention it deserves. But once I started reading the plot, the premise of it, I really enjoyed it. It was one for the books. So
thank you.
Now that
I have
actually
also read this, by the way.
Yes. And that came about from, was that basically like a prompt first that started like the massage situation? And then, okay, could you talk about how that sort of morphed into this? Because we, of course, do understand how a plot bunny will then turn into this gigantic thing after, one little idea. But yeah, how did that come about?
I think that was years ago, like on Tumblr, there was like a post that went around with like I think it was like the 51st dates prompt inspiration. And it was just a list of like 50 scenarios that could like, become a first date. And so I think for inspiration, I just asked people to send me like which prompts on Tumblr they wanted to have. And one of them was like massage. And I was like, oh, massage, that's a little boring. It's just a massage.
Spice that up. Yeah.
Right? Let's spice it up and put it in space.
Everything's better in space, though.
Right? Space makes everything better. And I don't even know how I came up with like this big rebel idea, but it was like, oh, what if this massage kind of is like a really spiritual or, transcendent experience? And I think that was already at the time where like writing about different cultures was like a thing because I had just moved. And so whenever you move to a new country and everything's different. And so I think that's one of the things that's a lot in my work because that's, one of the things that I deal with a lot. And so I just had this very vague idea that Jensen would be some kind of like, rebel on the run or maybe criminal on the run. And when you write like a really short thing, you don't have to flesh it out. So it was just from Jared's point of view, and it was just him being this ambassador on a foreign planet. And so I had a lot of fun coming up with what this foreign planet would look like. And then I had, like just barging in and pretending to be this massage person to avoid capture. And then in the end, he had to like run away because he's a criminal / rebel leader. And I had like a very vague idea for it, but that never went anywhere because I didn't really have time to write it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one of the things that never really left me. And I think 6 years later, I turned it into a big bang. And I started thinking a little bit more about what I wanted it to be like. And I think I had a fairly good idea from the beginning how the planets would look like. So I think it was very much inspired by like the deserty kind of wastelands of like most of the Firefly planets and like a little, that kind of visuals. And you have sort of like the broken down resistance who don't have a great lot of tech stuff, but they're like hidden. And I think the thing that gave me probably the most trouble was figuring out how Jared ends up with them. And that was like the most complicated thing. And then I just thought it would be like a nice juxtaposition to explore Jared being a bookworm and a scholar and what that's like for him to end up with these very practical and hands-on rebels. And that's where that went.
So how does because I know what it's like just to do a little bit of like research and like pulling all of the different things together and make sure you've got all of these planets and who's upset with who and all these different like how do you have like a master doc that has all of this information that you can go back to, or how does that work for you, like where you can keep it all together and not feel like you're going bonkers when you're writing and constantly have to go back and forth, or do you just have to go back and forth a lot?
Yeah, no, for that one I did have a master doc.
Okay.
I created the world, and then halfway through writing, I was realizing that I was messing things up. And I was like, oh, I said this planet was that, and that planet was that, but oh no, I messed it up. And so I created a master doc, and then I basically wrote down all my information. And I think it was like a star system with like 13 planets. And I had decided what 3 planets were already going to be like, because it just happened organically in the story. But then I sat down and I really thought about what these other planets would look like so that I would know moving forward, sort of like to keep the universe straight, basically. And so for the longer and more complex stories, I definitely have master docs to keep it straight. If I write like a short thing, then usually it's not necessary. But if I don't do it for the long stuff, sooner or later it comes back to bite me in the butt.
Yeah,
no,
I fully get that.
Yeah.
But it was, like the politics and managing all of that, it was just, but it made so much sense, and it was easy to understand, reading it. Like you understood the conflict pretty easily, because again, when you can base it off of what's happening real world, then it makes it a lot easier too. But it was just so, I really enjoyed, how very fish out of water Jared was too, in that world with Jensen. But then the immediate, especially for Jensen's character, how little bits of him and how Jared affected him, he was kind of letting stuff show little by little. I think one of my favorite lines of his is, "You really are going to be the death of me, aren't you?" or something like that. I kind of I love that he was just smug, but then also could say a lot and then just get Jared to be like, huh? What does that mean? What are you talking about? And then all of this, will they, won't they, will they, won't they? And then your ability to just pop in different characters in different roles that just kind of made sense. So you didn't really have to do a lot of oh, well, why would they be doing that? Of course they would be doing that. I love that Rowena was the doctor, the nurse, the one that fixed everybody up and stuff like that, and had her little bit. And then you even stuck in Stephen, I'm assuming it's Stephen Williams, right, as the cook, because because I was just that was so great. I loved that.
I do love casting the rest of the Supernatural universe in roles that make sense for them. And sometimes it's super obvious. And sometimes I'm I need this character. And then I will crowdsource it. And I will go in the group chat and be I need to cast this person. Which actor should I cast for this? So I like to make sure that it fits, because I think from watching the show, people already have ideas about what this person or this character is like. And so it's like really easy shorthand in fan fiction to like make sure that you like cast the roles correctly, because people's expectations about this character line up with what they're doing, and it helps you like craft this character better, I think.
And you have a lot of characters from other. And I'm sorry, I don't know enough about Chad Michael Murray. What's his deal? Like with like, is
he's the kooky friend in everything, isn't he?
Is he? Okay.
He was with Jared he was
Gilmore Girls. I remember that, but I didn't realize that they have a or still have like they were pretty close friends, I guess, in real life. Is that like a
I honestly, I don't know.
But I think they were
friends. Yeah, they were friends. And the thing is that Chad Michael Murray, he was kind of a disaster. Like when I got first fandom, he got a lot of bad press.
Okay.
Because he was like divorcing his wife and then up with a younger woman. I don't even know if they're still married.
Okay.
But he like didn't have a great reputation. And so it just made sense somehow to cast him. And I think when I got into fandom, everybody was casting Chad as just like the wild, kooky, dumb, crass friend. And it's just, it's one of those fanfic connections. You just
like a little trope that just happens when you see Chad Michael Murray. This is what you probably expect.
He's the best friend to Jensen's Chris Kane. Always.
Okay. Gotcha.
And it's just, again, a great shorthand, because people who read a lot of J2, when Chad shows up, they know like disaster income.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
Yeah. No, because I even I liked Danielle was in there. Felicia was in there. You threw every single redhead possible, was in the mix there. I loved that. But no, I love just the world building was so great. It seems so daunting. I mean, do you have any tips for somebody who might be considering doing some sort of world building to make
maybe is ready to cry with the pressure?
Yeah, to make it more manageable, so that you don't feel like the weight of this is just going to make you not want to. Because how long did that? Okay, I'm throwing so many questions at you. Forgive me, but tips. But then, how long did that story take you, to actually do?
Okay. Well, so I can't really put a time on it, because I started writing parts of it early after I did the prompting, and then just didn't go anywhere, and so I left it. And so I just had a couple of scenes, like snippets, that I kept going back to. And then when I decided to do the Big Bang, I went back to it and was like, okay, I'm going to now sit down with this and have an idea. And so maybe the writing for this was 3 or 4 months, the actual writing period before the Big Bang.
Okay.
Because usually I'm a person driven by deadlines, so I write more when I have a hard deadline. And as for the world building, I think it's important that the world itself makes sense. So even if some aspects of the world don't show up in your fic, you should still know about it, right? So you should have a general idea. And I mean, depending on what story you write, I think it's a good idea to have the cornerstone. So where are we? What kind of planet or what kind of land is this taking place in? Think a little bit about the nature. Is this a hot place or a cold place? And this can also give you help to write a story, right? If you want someone to get maybe stuck in a place where they can't leave, make up a country that has snowstorms or monsoons or whatever. And you should have, I think, a general idea about what kind of political system there should be, right? Is this a democracy? Is this, do you have a dictator? Do you have a king? What kind of stuff is going on here? And then I think just a general idea about any kind of religious leanings potentially or not, and what that says about that, because most cultures have some sort of religious heritage or religion going on. So that's, I think, one of the cornerstones of world building. And then just think about it a little bit about culture and food. And what I find makes a world come alive if there are differences to what we generally experience. And if you can make that clear, I think that helps people go to a different place.
Mm.
And I mean, I don't know how well this actually works. What I like to do is in-universe swearing. So it's really hard because I love to use like Jesus Christ as a swear, but you can't really use Jesus Christ in like a space swearing setting unless you're like, we have a strong connection to Earth and all of that. So I like to like model the language and make sure that I don't use terminology that's very like our culture specific and like settings where that wouldn't work. That I think are things.
Okay.
And then you don't have to be super specific about what you actually put in there, but I think if you have a better understanding of what you want it to be, then it's easier to write it at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like the iceberg sort of like situation where, like maybe like 20% or 10%, but then,
Absolutely.
there's a lot of stuff underneath that maybe you just pull from when necessary, but it's there and you've got it sort of like for reference, and okay, maybe you add a little bit more here and there. But yeah, I did like the I think there was a lot of like slang and like, different terminology. I just loved how like, I don't know, like Jared and Jensen in that were just, it was so sweet. And like, they did nice things to each other, even though they were like, he was trying so hard, Jensen, especially, I think, to take care of him. Right. And like, do the things he was supposed to do, but yet still follow what he needed to do. So it was just so very, it was easy, like you said, to see both of those characters in those roles. And I like seeing Jared clumsy, like, because I mean, I think he just kind of like is in general, because he's just like this big dude, and he doesn't kind of like, he's trying to fit into all these different spaces anyway. But it's nice when writers lean into those things that are just right there, and like, okay, here's what we've got to work with, and we can use that with this character in this universe and stuff like that. So, I really did. Again, I was picking out different scenes and kind of like, because again, it was like 2 hours this morning. I was like, okay, I've got to come back to this. But as I was reading certain scenes and sections, it was just, I was getting the vibe right away. So you definitely hit it, right away, like for that. So yes, good job.
Yeah, it is. I love that one. One of my favorite things about that is it's just like, it's not even like a subplot. It's just like a teeny tiny little mystery of what is a holly.
Yes,
because
I love
Jensen
that.
keeps calling Jared like fucking holly eyes, and I was like, I've gone back to that so many times, because when he actually tells the story of why he calls Jared that, and I'm
the
like,
mines and everything.
so
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah. It's just so sweet. Like you wouldn't be able to say no to him. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so cute.
Adorbs. Fully adorbs.
Yeah. And honestly, this is one of those things that actually came out of the world building, because in the beginning, when he says it the first time, the first draft, it says like puppy dog eyes. I'm like, no. What if there are no dogs? And so I
don't have dogs on this planet. Yeah.
Right. And so I need like a fake name for like a fake animal that I'm inventing for this. And so I kept going with this. And then because I kept using it, and because Jared didn't know and didn't understand, I was like, I should have a backstory for that. And so the backstory for this actually came out of the world building I did in the beginning without really having a thought in mind. But then I thought it worked out really well. So lesson from this, if you do good solid world building in the beginning, it will actually give you plot.
Yeah. No, that's very true. If you've got something in the back of your head that makes sense for the character, like, what's motivating them, or like what happened to them, and like not necessarily has to come out, but then using it later. I loved that. I thought that was just so, because literally I was doing find on my keyboard. I'm like, okay, we've got to figure out what this Holly thing is.
What is it? Yeah.
And then I got to that part. I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, this is so, it was such a good payoff, I think, for that. And a lot of times you get references to things and you don't hear about it again, or it's not really like talked about and not fleshed out. And I think it got fleshed out at like a really good moment in the story too. So it's like, and again, it was like this building, I think, of trust too, and like just giving more of yourself in conversation and stuff. So it was, I really did enjoy it. I love that. As soon as I started, like, wait, what is that? Because Chad calls his eyes something else. It's not puppy dog. I feel like there was a mention of it and I can't remember now, but definitely gives him like that. He uses those eyes or that look, for that purpose. And then he kind of like was once, and I like that once he knew it was a thing, he used it. more like
Mhm.
on Judson, like, to make sure that he could get what he needed to get out of certain situations. No, it was really good. I really did like that. Really did like it
Thank
a lot.
you. This is making my heart all soft and warm and fuzzy.
That's what's supposed
Yay!
to happen with fanfic writing. Yes, and you do a very good job of it. I've been asking a ton of questions, Karlee. Do you have anything you want to jump in with right now?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, unless you want me to bring some of my favorites.
Well, I was going to
I can do
ask.
that. I have tabs open.
I could do one more, and then I'll do one more question, and then we can jump into it. But are there, because we know you like to use J2 for specific situations, are there any like tropes that you've noticed you kind of gravitate towards in your writing? Or does it really just depend, again, like on the situation that you're putting them in? Or do you like to do like a friends to lovers or enemies to lovers? Or like, have you noticed anything like that in your writing that you seem to like, or maybe don't like, you like stay away from altogether?
Yeah, I think I'm like Dean a little bit. I'll try anything once. And not all of it sees the light of day.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some unclaimed masquerade snippets still sitting in anonymity that I've just never put anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
I think generally I'm drawn, if I write longer fics, I definitely don't write established relationships because I like getting them together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I did a lot in the last couple of years, which I only figured out a while ago, but I write a lot about cultural differences. So like one for the book is like different planets, different backgrounds. And then I wrote like another longer Big Bang, Breaking the Ice, where they're from different countries and it's like arranged marriage and they have to find common ground. And so those are, and sometimes if I write like ABO or fantasy stuff is like different backgrounds. And I think because I've lived in different countries in the last couple of years where I had to get acclimated and overcome like the small cultural shock you get anytime you go to a new place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that just found its way into its writing. I generally like to write things that have like lighthearted moments because I like to write dialogue and I write to like banter and that's all fun. And sometimes I like to write dark things too. I think it's mostly a lot of times, especially if I do prompt fills, it's just like stretching my imagination and see where I could go. Which is really where the whole dinosaur thing started because, although I will say when I started doing like my first dinosaur fic, there was like a trend in fandom to write like J2 is cutesy animal fic. There's like the really cool, the Spots First by Mios Venator, who wrote like Jensen as a hamster and Jared as a squirrel, which is really cute. Can only recommend that.
Okay.
And there's like one fic where there are snails, which sounds weird, but is really good somehow. And so it was like a thing that was happening like 10 years ago. And I just never got over it because I really like dinosaurs.
Okay.
So I keep enjoying that. But yeah, and sometimes it's just like you write silly things. And like, can I make this work? Can I do something with this scenario? I mean, there are things that I will never write because I just personally don't enjoy them. So I will never write an infidelity fic. It's just not my thing. I know other people really enjoy it. So, go ahead and do that. But that's, I think, one thing that I will never write. And there are certain tropes that I really like reading, but I don't write them because I want to read them. Like, I really love fake relationships and enemies to lovers is great. And I will do that. I've tried to write fake relationship, but I just give up because I want to read it.
That's fair.
Do you feel like your darker stuff tends to be more if it's Sam and Dean? If you like, do you feel like it kind of leans a little darker that way, or have you had other instances too where it can get pretty dark and it's J2?
No, I've written pretty dark J2. I have like a double murder or like a murder suicide fig with like double major character death at the end. That's pretty grim.
Okay, yeah.
And I've written one that's like a longer ABO that doesn't really have a happy end. It's just very depressing throughout. But generally, and I've written like other dark stuff for Masquerade that also has never made it to the Ashtray account. So I do play around with it occasionally, but usually I want my fic to be happy making because fandom for me is my happy place and I use it to make myself happy. So even when I write about darker stuff, there's usually a happy end. So I've written stories where Jensen is a serial killer, but like he and Jared are still in love because even my serial killers deserve a happy ending, even though he goes around killing people. But
So the ABO stuff, do you feel again that's kind of like leans towards more like culture, society, and like the animal twist to it too, like like the animal instincts and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some of it is just, shallow smut because why not?
Because why not?
But some of the longer stuff, I think generally ABO is a nice way to talk about, society and what's wrong with it and equality and discrimination in all sorts of forms. But because for me, I think because it's made up, it's further away from our real world, right? I'm not directly writing about what's wrong in our world. I get to transfer it into this made up kind of universe. And I think for me, that makes it easier in a way to deal with it.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it's also just, because it's fun.
Yeah. I'm gonna let Karlee lean into some of their favorites and shower some more praise.
You guys are really too nice to me.
No. It's we honestly we don't give we don't give false praise. So I've read like a whole bunch of your stuff, and then it was only afterwards that I've been like, oh, that's who it is. That's why I freaked out when you came on the podcast last time, when I was like, oh my god, Slug Meaning Hero. Jeez, I've read so much of your stuff.
But I just had a lot of time.
But there's just a couple that I want to sort of like call attention to as really standing out to me. So obviously one for the books. I love that. I go back to it like more than I would like to admit that I go back to it. But I went looking for some like sort of supernatural ones, not real person fiction ones. So I really love True Nature. I just read it again. Like might have been yesterday. I love cats. I don't know if you can tell. There are 3 of them in this room right now. You obviously wouldn't know that. But I do own 3 of them. And so I love cats. So I was like, Cat Jensen or Cat Dean? Yes, please. Thank you. And it was so cute and funny. And I really liked that. And the tail and everything. And it was great. It was great. And it was like, I like the fact that you kind of gone and a barbed dick, just tossing it out there like it wasn't even, just like, of course, and also this. Huge fan of that.
It was part of the prompt. It had to be in there. It's about that.
Oh yeah, no, the prompt is in the notes. Yeah, no, yeah. It was cute. I really liked it because I've read a few fics where Dean gets turned into like an actual real cat, and very recently where he gets turned into a puppy. You should read that. We'll link you to it. It's great. Don't you say a goddamn word, Sandra. Gets turned into a little beagle puppy. He's a little, and he's on tile floors, and he can't. He's like Bambi on ice on tile floors. It's the greatest fucking thing. It's fabulous. We'll link you. It's amazing. But the idea that just of like ears and a tail, and I just fully love that. So that was. I try and bring like one Wincest and then one like het. Just to be fair. So that was my Wincest, and then the het one, which Sandra said that you'd recommended to her as well, Heartblood. Now I ship Sam with me first, and then with Dean. But if I have to ship him with a female, it's Rowena. It's I fully believe there was some student teacher banging behind the bookshelves going on, like, fight me on this. That was happening. So I got this, and I was like, oh, yes. And then there's like a bathtub full of blood, and I'm like, oh my fucking God, all of this. And then you get right to the end. And I don't know what was in your head, but I was like, did Dean witness all of it? Or just the last minute, Was he watching in horror the whole time? Loved it.
I think in my head, he only got like the last bit of it, but that's like really the pertinent part. So,
yeah.
And I mean, you can read it as a test if you want to, but you don't have to. I think because it's Rowena's point of view, it's kind of left open to interpretation. But yeah, that was also a Masquerade prompt, and I've never written that before. But there was like I was like, I should try something new, and it was probably the middle of the night, and I was like, drunk on writing, which is usually what happens in Masquerade. And I was like, yes, let's try that. See how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was just, I love Sam and Rowena, and I do. And Blood Kink is really inconvenient. Like there are a lot of kinks you can't take out into real life, but that's a big one that I'm like, that'd be so messy. Like there would be police involvement, but then you're like, have a bathtub full of blood. And I was like, fucking, I will though. I will. I love it.
Yeah, and I was oh my God. When I got the prompt, I was like, I don't want them to kill someone to like bathe in the blood, because you need a lot of people to like fill a bathtub. And then I was like,
yeah,
but she's a witch, so let's just have a very convenient blood replenishing potion, then I can have all the blood I want. So,
yeah, and it's so prevalent in Sam Rowena fics, and I love it so much that she's this tiny little, like Ruth is like a teeny tiny little woman, and but she's always the one in control, and I love it even more when it's Sam, because it's such, it's such a dichotomy, and I'm like, oh fuck, I love it though. I just all of this, yes.
I am very glad you enjoyed that. That was my first foray into that pairing, so I was a little anxious. But I think also when I came across that prompt, I remembered a painting that Quick Reaver had done of Sam and Rowena that I really like. And so maybe that helped me along there a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it did. Did you end up reading Heartblood, Sandra? Or is it
I did. No, I read Heartblood, and I read Branded Heart, which Ashley had suggested, which I think that might be actually like what I'll read for one of the Ramble-Ons. And you said that was one.
You don't want to read a hat one?
That was, well, I don't know. Maybe I might do both. Who knows? We don't know. They're not very long, so I might do both. But for Branded Heart, that was, I think in the notes you said you hadn't really written a Wincest in a while, and I liked that you kind of went all the way back with that. Yeah. And I did really like, there's a scene, like, first of all, I'm so like daft. I didn't even get like Funky Town like until after I had to read it again. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, okay, duh. He said Funky Town. There was a little hint. And then I was also, and I don't know if you were wanting people to, when they were reading it, to wonder, like, is the assumption that when Sam realized Dean was there, then was he more careful with how he asked his questions about, like, does that person feel the same sort of situation? Like, I was almost wondering if he was sort of like omitting or trying to be more careful once Dean was there. Was I just reading into that, or was that like one of your...
That was definitely my idea. Like, Sam picks up that Dean is there, so he tries to distract her first. But he still wants to ask whether Dean loves him back the same way, but he can't outright say it when Dean is there.
Right. No, I love that. Yeah. No, I really like that. I really like that one a lot too. Again, like, it's this subtle writing is so, you can either like whack somebody over the head or just kind of let it come out in bits and pieces, and being able to sort of know when to pull back on your writing to make it more just, I don't know, like the depth of it is just, even in that small story, it just felt so very big and important. And the interaction and stuff was just really great in that story too. And I could see young Sam, you know what I mean? Like, and picturing that. I know that's a great thing with fan fiction too, is you've already got these characters built in or baked in to a certain extent that then you play with. So it makes it easier for somebody to just jump into the story. But I really liked that, again, when I went back, like once I saw the Funky Town part, I was like, okay, let me go read this part again. And like, I read it again and I was like, no, there's a shift in how he's even how he was acting. Like, it was almost like he was putting on a little bit more of an actor show, like to hint or cue Dean in as to, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And you can get ready to come in and like do your thing and all that sort of stuff. So I really liked that a lot. I thought for a very simple story, there was a lot to it, a lot of layers in it that you could like find again when you read it again. So yeah, I really like that one. That was a good one too.
God, you're going to make me cry now.
They're all really good.
But, Yeah, sometimes you really just got to trust your reader to figure out what's going on. And I think Sam as a character, I mean, Sam and Dean are both such smart cookies that I really like to put that in their writing and like to show off how smart they are. Because I think like in the first few seasons of Supernatural, you get that a lot. And then in the end, the writers, not always couldn't be bothered.
They make them dumb. They make Dean dumb, especially. I get very upset with the last few seasons because I feel like Dean just becomes a dum-dum and sort of like the butt of the, not the butt of the joke, but I don't know. I don't know if you ever watched Game of Thrones, but I felt like they did that like with Tyrion. Like, he was this amazing character and then they kind of just turned him into like the joke. And I was like, why are you doing that to this character? So it's upsetting that people who are in charge of a show don't respect the characters and care for them as much as fans do, I think sometimes.
Or they don't want to do the work because it's harder to write something more complex and something smarter. And so, Dean really becomes the grunt of the joke. And even Sam's smartness is like reduced to doing research. Yeah. Which is like, fine, this is a skill he has, but Sam is also
not the only thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if I try to attempt anything like in the vicinity of a case fic, which is what I usually don't, but for this one, I was like, no, Sam is a smart cookie and he would do smart things. And I kind of want to try to find a way for him to do that because I think that's a really important part of the character.
Yeah. No, good job. You did a great. I mean, I don't need to tell you you're doing a good job because you've got all of these people that are telling you too that you give a lot to the fandom. And I think that's really special. And I mean, like, I'm not necessarily like, I Karlee and I know, and I think what kind of works great about Karlee and I is we come together on certain things, but we also have we're like a Venn diagram of like fan fiction. So it's like, we kind of like, I'm over here, they're over here, but then we have like this overlap of stuff. But then when it's good writing, and we want to experience it and explore it. And it doesn't really matter, I think, what the pairing or what the ship is, because when you find a good writer, you get invested in their storytelling. Like I had read Amy's the song Silence, and that's a J2. And I really don't read J2, but now I'm like, you know what? These are good authors. And if I want to get immersed in a story and really great characters, I know where to go for that. So thank you for giving us that. I think that's great. It's great that you shared that you took the leap all those years ago and decided, you know what, I'm going to give this a try because it's paying off in dividends to everybody who reads it.
Yes.
Which I think is really great,
I mean, it's not entirely selfless, right? I mean, the endorphins you get from like someone leaving comments or kudos on your fic. That's just hearing something like this. This is just, that's just very happy making. So.
Yeah. Well, everybody needs a little bit of happy, right? And I think that fandom, when it's really good and it's hitting on all levels, I think that's what we get out of it. There's some sometimes dark spots of it, but if you can get past the dark spots and just deal with what the intent is, and if it's all comes from a good place and it's love at the end for these characters, then I think that's great. I'm so happy to get to do this too, and like to get a chance to talk to authors like you, and like, so I do appreciate that you're giving us some of your time today.
This is a lovely conversation. I feel so much better now about myself. You don't even know.
Good.
Good. I'll just put a little cherry on top. So we put it out we have like a teeny tiny little Discord server, and we were like, oh, we have Ashtraythief coming on. Anybody, so I put it out like, I don't know, like a couple of hours ago, like last call, questions, thoughts, well wishes, anything. So my friend Anne Bader, Runaway Dreamer, if you've listened to any of the recent podcast episodes, she comes up like every episode. But when you and Amy came on last time, and I had to mute and be like, breathe into a brow paper bag for a couple of seconds. When we were done with that recording, I messaged her immediately, and I was like, are you familiar with the AO3 author Ashtraythief? And she was like, yes. And I was like, she was just on the fucking podcast. And she like freaked out with me. So we had like a little fan mortal moment together. So I just checked our Discord, and she has no questions. She can only offer you incoherent fangirling. She's also an enormous fan. And she was like, I want to ask a question, but I can't think of anything. And I'm like, I don't know. Because she was also behind by yelling at Amy. She was like, why do they all end with the black screen? And I was like, Amy, why do they all end with the black fucking screen though? Stop closing the door on the dicks. So she has no questions for you. She just offers you love and incoherent fangirling. So you should feel
thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I am an open book. You can always come ask me questions.
Oh, awesome.
Good. And I will say, before we started recording, Sandra was like, are you going to yell this time? And I was like, I have nothing to yell about. I was like, Ash doesn't do that to me. Ash finishes her sex scenes. And she was like, oh, so you're happy every single time you're happy. And I was like, well, I can't think of a time I haven't been happy. So yeah. So there you go. You escaped being yelled at by virtue of finishing your sex scenes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I don't like to leave my characters hanging,
Yeah, we're gonna have a new scale for Karlee. It's gonna be blue balls to completion, and where do they fall in the middle of that for each author? So that's gonna be a new thing we're gonna probably do. Yeah. I think
apparently I'm difficult to please.
Yes.
I don't know where this idea could have come from, but apparently I'm difficult to please.
I've had 3 years with this, Karlee. So I understand, because I know I do that to you too. So like, come on, Sandra, what? Why are you doing this? You better finish this. So I understand. I think one of my last questions, yes, it is fair. One of my last questions, Ash, for you is, who are some of your favorite fanfic authors? I mean, is there somebody that kind of like brought you into the fandom? I think you mentioned Alley Cat, but are there a handful that you might say suggest to somebody who, maybe doesn't dabble into J2 that much, but has that, just is like a great writer and like, would get somebody interested in it?
I mean, obviously you already talked about Into Amy, and Amy is a great writer. So Dug in Deep or Hot Sauce, I think, is her handle. For J2 specifically, they're not active anymore, but Clayfink really wrote a lot of really ingenious AUs. So their world building was really great.
Are they on AO3?
Yes, everything.
How do you spell it?
CLEFINK.
Okay.
And then I think Rifcat wrote a lot of Wincest, but they also wrote some J2, which was always fun. Sherry Mort, she writes more serious stuff mostly, but it's really good. If you want dragon fics, Zub Meshamali wrote like 4 of them. So that's great. Kelly or Girl from Carolina, probably AO3 handle. Also does great long fic.
I think that was someone that Amy had suggested. I think. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
We're gonna need to get a list. I can't remember all these names.
Yeah, I'm trying to J2. There are a couple of people who are not around anymore, but whose fic is still there.
Still there, yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes you have to go back a couple of years.
That's fine. That's what I mean. I'm really grateful for AO3, and especially like the option for people to like orphan their works and still keep things up there for other people to still want to experience, and just having that library of work from like, we're going into decades now, right? Like the second decade of AO3. It's amazing how much stuff is on there that people can still find if you want to dig around a little bit, and not necessarily the most recent. But I have so many authors that I love that don't write anymore, but like, they're in my library, of like, they're on my Kindle because their writing was just so special, and you could just go back to and read again and again for their characters and stuff. Yeah.
I'm trying to go through my bookmarks. But recently I've read a lot in other fandoms. So
okay. No. Oh, I did want to ask you. So yeah, what are some of your other fandoms like right now that because I feel like I've been seeing something on your feeds. Is it the red, white, royal blue? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They're just cute and pretty. And And it's one of those fandoms. It's been around since the book happened, but the movie really blew it up. So there's so much new content being created.
Yeah.
And I think those characters lend themselves really well for like AUs that are fun. And there are a couple of writers that I really enjoy, and the characters themselves have a lot of like banter back and forth, and I really like reading like short banter fics where it's just like very witty and I can like laugh about it because it's good stuff. So that's definitely what I'm currently reading. This is gonna sound terrible, but I had like a phase where I was reading a lot of Teen Wolf.
Okay.
No judgment.
Not because I particularly enjoyed the show, because I didn't, but the characters, like Styles and Derek, they have great chemistry and they make great fanfic material. So there's some like very great fanfic that came out of the Teen Wolf that I really like. And, you know, I just have like a couple of like weird movies that people have written fanfic about that I really enjoy, like The Magnificent Seven, which I don't even know if anyone's seen it, but it was like a modern
Heard
Western.
of it.
Oh my God, you do. It's amazing. Isn't like, it's not the best, but it's so good.
So that's the remake from, is it you talking about the remake?
Yeah.
That had, so I think I watched part of it, but I don't think I got all the way through it. But it had, I think it has one of the actors that I really like. Does it have Ethan Hawke in it, or am I imagining that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just really like Westerns, and there aren't a lot of like good ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
that's fair.
Yeah.
And there's some good fanfic. I mean, obviously, most of it is like, oh, they all live at the end. Maybe they don't. That's the movie about fanfic.
Oh gosh.
Everybody lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing too, though, about fanfic. Sometimes you can change things up and make it the way that you want. So that's good. Yeah.
It's good. It's good. We can make everybody live and nobody's sad. And we like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So Ash, before we let you go, again, I know you've given us a lot of really good like thoughts about writing in general, but like, is there anything for any writer who's listening, any like words of advice or wisdom you'd give them in general?
I mean, write what brings you joy. And if you want to improve your writing because you're like, oh, I think this is okay, but I think I can do better, I can recommend nothing better than having someone as a sounding board, whether that's someone who functions as like an alpha reader or a beta reader, or just like brainstorms plot stuff with you. Just have a friend you can talk to the stuff about and who's honest with you. Because I think sometimes people are like, oh, everything you write is great. This was so awesome. Like, thank you. This is not the feedback I wanted right now. So sometimes,
sometimes you need someone to be like, I love you and I love the things that you do, but this is trash and you need to fix it. Yes.
Right. Sometimes you need to like someone to go like, I know you can do better, which is like a compliment, like a compliment, but also a critique. And I know that this is just a hobby, and it's fine if people are like, I'm just gonna, bang out 5,000 words because it's fun and post it and it's great. I am not like that. So I need something to be as good as it can be before I post it. And so for me, it's just, and I think it's just, it's not easy to find like good people who can give you feedback that's helpful without destroying your spirit, but it's still helpful,
Yeah.
So that, and the other thing is just, and I know it sounds trite, and we all love feedback and comments and kudos, and it's like absolutely valid to want those and to be unhappy when you don't get them a lot. But at some point, you just need to let go and write the things that make you happy anyway. Like, I always know my dinosaur fics never get as much kudos as like a normal fic, whatever that is, because not a lot of people are into dinosaurs, and fair enough. But I will keep writing it because it brings me joy. And if there's only one person who comments and says, I like this, then I'm like, yes. Post it.
That's great, though.
Yeah. So follow your heart. Write dinosaur fics. I will be happy about it.
That's going to be the title of this episode. Follow your heart, write dinosaur fics. I love this.
I don't know. I kind of like space makes everything better. I wrote that down before. I kind of think
you know what? I once wrote a fic with dinosaurs in space. And because, dinosaurs are great in space, make everything better. And I will say it's not the best thing I've ever written in my life, but I had fun how to figure out to put dinosaurs in space.
Well, I think we're going to do space and dinosaurs make everything better then. I think that might be a good title for this one.
That is very true.
Oh, Ash, this has been so much fun. Thank you for taking time to
thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, again, I know you're busy and stuff, but like we always like to, once we have somebody on, as long as we haven't scared them off and Karlee hasn't yelled at them too much, we like to have them come back. So maybe like if another topic comes up at some point, again, not anytime soon, but if you'd love to come back on and chat about something, I'd love to be able to just reach out to you and say, hey, do you have some time to talk about this or that or whatever? But yeah, I love talking with fellow writers and lovers of fan fiction. We both do it. It gives us, I think, a little jolt of adrenaline too. And then it's like, oh, I could do this with my fic. I should do this with my fic. I should try this.
Yes.
So it's nice to be able to talk to somebody who, appreciates it as much as we do and does such a great job sharing that with the fandom. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think what you guys are doing is great, especially now, when the fandom is shrinking a little bit.
Yeah.
Like pulling the community together and like connecting new people with each other. I think that's a great thing. So I'll come back to you guys anytime.
You.
Also, you're so nice to me.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, lovely.
We try to be nice.
Yeah.
We try to be nice.
Yeah. I think we do a good job. job.
Yeah. And I really appreciate how balanced and thoughtful you guys are, especially like in our, current fandom climate. So this is very heartwarming what you guys are doing.
Oh, thank you. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend. And
thank you guys as well.
And if there's anything you need from me beforehand, let me know. But like I said, I'll definitely let you know when the episode's coming out. And I think I am going to go with Branded Heart because I really did enjoy reading that one. So, and if I have enough time, I'll do Heartblood too. And maybe you'll get a special. Oh, you get two fics from Ash. Oh, but thank you. Appreciate it. And have a good rest of the day.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you
this
for joining
great.
us.
Good. I really feel better about myself and my writing now. That's
good.
Amazing.
That's our job.
Good. That's we aim to have people leave us feeling better about themselves. So I'm glad we have succeeded.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much for joining us and have a great rest of your Saturday.
Yeah, you guys too. Karlee, enjoy your long weekend.
I'm gonna sleep so much. It's gonna be great. That's all. I'm just gonna sleep.
Fair enough. Okay.
Alrighty.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, that was good.
That was great. We love having
that.
Yeah, we love having authors on. Come chat to us, guys. We're not scary.
No.
We're funny. We'll ask you what your favorite dinosaur is. I'm gonna start putting that on guest forms now. What is your favorite dinosaur?
That'll have to be a question. Just make sure we have that in our running list. Just randomly. What is your favorite dinosaur?
What is your favorite dinosaur?
I feel like we're getting this a lot from authors that we talk to too. It's just like write what brings you joy, write for yourself first and foremost. Like, yeah, it's great to get the reception, feedback, but at the end of the day, you have to really enjoy what it is that you're writing and community, how important that is.
Yeah.
To have that. But
yeah, absolutely. And like Ash says, with the show being over and the fandom, I mean, it's shrinking, but it's shrinking slowly. But people are moving on, and finding other things to fill the void that Supernatural left us with. I think finding your circles, finding your communities, finding the people that make you happy and support you is really important. And if they are people you can bounce ideas off, that's fucking great too.
Yeah,
find your people, write your joy. I like that. I'm gonna write that down somewhere.
Yeah, that's the one thing too, is that like it sort of does kind of like bum me out a little bit that, I think kind of getting into the fandom, kind of like when it was getting it to the very point where it was getting ready to sort of like, it was reaching its peak of like where it was getting to be, the finale was coming, and then sort of like riding that wave. And then again, sort of seeing, and again, it's understandable, new stuff, new works brings, excitement and these new characters that people want to explore. But I do feel like there's always going to, I wasn't sure about this before, but I do really feel like there's a core of people that will always come back to, I think, Sam and Dean And it may not be as often, but I think there's just something very special about the show and the characters that will kind of bring in people, like I think it's got that built in, not momentum. I don't know what the right word is, but like this resurgence quality where it can always bring in a new generation of fans for different reasons. Like people are still learning about a show that's been on the air forever. And, they're coming back to it in different ways, whether it's streaming or, somebody older, maybe like a parent, oh, we're going to watch Supernatural together. And then that becomes a thing. And then, they kind of like have that continuous fan base. I'm also like, cause I mean, every time I know when I've gone to conventions, like even the last time when Jared usually asks like first time, there's still a lot of people saying it's their first time, coming to a convention. And I think that says a lot for,
cool.
For a fandom that's it's going to be 3 years since the finale. It's good. I think I'm a long hauler, whether it's just you and me, Karlee, right? In the fan fiction.
I have invested far too much time in this hyperfixation now. I think this one might see me through to my death. And also, of all the things I've hyperfixated on in my life, hashtag neurodivergence, this one has brought me the greatest of friends and, the most joy and sparked so much creativity within me that I don't think I could let it go. Even if my brain decided that we were done with it, I'd be like, no, we're keeping this one. No, you don't get to throw this out with the rest of them. We're keeping it.
Yeah, good. I think that's very special. I think that's great. And yeah, I hope we get to chat with more people and, kind of increase our little circle, of people too, in ways that, just having that connection, I think is special. But yeah, so again,
totally agree.
If you write stuff, if you want to chat with us, if you want to maybe come on and talk fan fiction, maybe you're just
or if you draw stuff.
Yeah, or you draw stuff, or if you're a reader, if you're just like a super fan and you want to talk Supernatural, reach out to us. We've got links in the description where you can fill out a form, give us information, or you can just reach out to us in various ways. Some of those ways are emailing us at idlingintheimpala@gmail.com. You can comment on Spotify and use the Q&A section to share your thoughts. All our contact details are on our website, idlingintheimpala.com. Go check it out.
Yes, you should do that. Also, since there's conventions and the actor strike is just ended, so hype, we stand strong. If you've been to like a convention, maybe it was your first convention, and you want to talk to somebody about it, come talk to us about it. Okay. Yeah. Let me live vicariously through you. All right. I'm saving up money. We're crossing all the fingers for Jared to come back to the UK next year, but let me live vicariously through you, please, until such time as I can do it myself. And even then it won't be a Creation Con level. So, come talk to us. Don't forget to like, comment, share, follow, and subscribe wherever you access your podcasts. But especially if you are watching or listening on YouTube, it really helps us with the YouTube algorithm. All hail its benevolence. Don't forget, in the description, as always, there are the causes that we are championing. The holidays are coming up. If you are a member of the LGBTQ plus community, the holidays can be quite hard. We understand this, and with you, we stand with you. But if you need somebody to talk to, there are charities that can help put you in touch with people. Election season is doing whatever the fuck election season does in the US. So Sandra has put some links in there to direct you to places. Keep yourself informed. Try and stay ahead of all the nonsense. And actually, a couple of years ago, no, it was in time for the 2020 election. Tenacious D, the band, covered Time Warp from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and it's called Rocky the Vote. And I only just looked at the description of the video like recently, and it's just like the song says, it's a jump to the left, not a step to the right. And I fucking love that. I love that. So when it comes to voting, it's a jump to the left, guys. Let's try and turn this disaster piece around. Also in there, we are championing big time World Central Kitchen and Doctors Without Borders, both charities which are on the ground in the Ukraine and in Gaza, helping people who are being affected by Russia's continuing and ongoing unlawful invasion of the Ukraine and the Israel-Hamas conflicts in the Middle East. And we know that the Middle East conflict is complicated. We understand that. We're not asking you to take sides. We're not publicly taking a side. But there are people there, children, who did not ask for any of this, and they are starving, they are being bombed, and they need help because they don't have anywhere to go. So this is not a political thing. This is a humanitarian thing. World Central Kitchen, feeding people, Doctors Without Borders, obviously providing medical care. If you can, if you are willing, if you are able, if you can help any of those causes, keep helping people. That would be amazing. And if you need any of their resources, that is what they are there for. So big long spiel about the causes in the description. Sorry guys, but it's important. You know, things are coming up. People might need them. So I'll keep yelling about them, you know, come have a chat with me. But with that, we will say thank you very much for joining us in the backseat. Thank you to Ash for joining us today. And we will see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.